Welcome to Table Bible Studies with Dan and Ben. These studies are posted every Thursday. We're studying the book of Daniel, and we pick up in chapter 5, where Daniel's been called to the banquet hall of a Babylonian king to interpret the handwriting on the wall.
So verse 8, all the king's wise men came, but they could not read the writing or make known to the king its interpretation. Now, whether that means they didn't even try or whether they tried and he was like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm not buying it. We don't know, but for one reason or another, he wasn't satisfied with their attempts. And so the Bible says King Belshazzar was greatly troubled. His countenance was changed. His lords were astonished. So everybody's in a state of shock.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just shocking. This is not something that happens every day. You see a hand writing on a wall, no body, in a language that you don't understand.
Yeah.
And nobody can quite figure out what in the world is it, but you know this is something that's never happened before.
I know.
So he is scared,
And
he is
this is
shocked.
not just in the dream. This is happening physical.
This is actually happening. This is not a dream, not even really a vision. I mean, there was literally writing on the wall.
On the wall.
And it was actually just 4 words, however. And the Bible says the queen, because of the word of the king and his lords, came to the banquet hall. The queen heard. Now, in reading a commentary on this, this person suggested this was the queen mother, the widow of Nebuchadnezzar. It had been quite a few years since he was died, but if he had a young wife, and she was now an old lady, this could be the widow of Nebuchadnezzar. We can't prove that. But anyway, some kind of a queen, whether it was his queen or the queen mother, says, "O king, live forever." That's polite talk. That's the way you talk to kings.
Right.
He wasn't going to live forever. In fact, he wasn't going to live through the night. I mean, that's how bad things were for him. So this live forever didn't quite work.
They didn't walk.
She says, "Do not let your thoughts trouble you, nor your countenance change." In other words, don't look so miserable.
Yeah.
"There is a man in your kingdom in whom is the spirit of the holy God." Well, that sounds kind of familiar. That's how Nebuchadnezzar used to describe Daniel. And now this queen is saying that, there's a guy who has the spirit of God in him. "In the days of your father," again, not his natural father, but his grandfather, Nebuchadnezzar, "light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods, were found in him. And King Nebuchadnezzar, your father the king, made him chief of the magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, and soothsayers." In other words, he was the head guy of all the wise men, all the soothsayers, all these people that supposedly could counsel the king. He was number one. "Inasmuch as an excellent spirit, knowledge, understanding, interpreting dreams, solving riddles, and explaining enigmas," enigma is a mystery, "they were found in this Daniel, whom the king named Belteshazzar. Now let Daniel be called, and he will give the interpretation."
Okay, now this tells us that Daniel were really doing some other things apart from interpreting dreams.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He was an advisor. I would say the interpreting dreams was probably a rare thing. Happened here and there, but not constantly. Like I said, he lived to be an old man and probably most days didn't involve a supernatural dream. Another thing this tells us is he wasn't playing an active role in this administration.
Right.
King Belteshazzar, not Belteshazzar, but Belshazzar, he didn't even know about Daniel, apparently, or not much. And the queen had to remind him that there's a guy named Daniel that is smarter than anybody, and he served Nebuchadnezzar very well. You ought to call him. So Daniel was sort of in semi-retirement or maybe full retirement at that point. Now, he's going to come back and end up working for another administration from an entirely different nation of peoples that's going to take over later. So he's going to come back into active service. But for right now, he is more or less retired.
Yeah.
And what he's doing, what his days look like, how he was surviving, and I suppose he had some kind of a pension plan from his days of serving well. And so he's just kind of minding his own business. So they send some people to get him.
While you were explaining that, something came to my mind because being that I lived, or raised in an environment like now, we have kings.
Yeah.
Like the time I took you to Nigeria,
Right.
we visited a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And so any king that is, raised or that during the election or either by appointment or by election that is sitting on that throne has to get his own body people.
Yeah.
Like
kind of like a
the
cabinet.
king's men, the cabinet have to change. So this person coming in is coming in with his own cabinet, his advisors, his people that he has to talk to every day.
Yeah.
Get counsel and them knowing what is in the mind of the king, what they're gonna do or what next to do. What we're not gonna, do.
Yeah.
So that is why, when you said that they had to go and call him because he wasn't among this, circle.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, this new person, the king
Belshazzar,
the king Belshazzar came into the, office, into the throne with his entourage.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. So they bring Daniel before the king. Verse 13, the king spoke and said to Daniel, "Are you that Daniel who's one of the captives from Judah?" So he at least knew where he'd come from.
Yeah.
"Who my father the king brought from Judah," speaking of Nebuchadnezzar. He said, "I've heard of you that the Spirit of God is in you, and that light and understanding and excellent wisdom are found in you. Now the wise men, the astrologers, have been brought in before me, that they should read this writing and make known to me its interpretation, but they could not give the interpretation of the thing.
Right.
And I've heard of you that you can give interpretations and explain enigmas. Now, if you can read the writing and make known to me its interpretation, you shall be clothed with purple." So now here come the prizes.
Yeah.
Here comes the reward. You'll be clothed with purple. I'm sure Daniel, as an old man, is going, "Oh, great. Yeah, that's all I need is a purple suit," right? I doubt that impressed him too much.
Or he would be like, "What is that?
Yeah.
Is that all you got?"
Yeah. But
That was a time. Sorry.
Yeah.
That was a time when we were selling things, when I was doing business.
Yeah.
And these people from, Brazil came, "Oh, we're going to give you a t-shirt, a jersey from, one of the well-known footballers from Brazil. And you just have to start selling this bunch of things. And these things are not easy to sell, even one, because they're expensive." And then some Nigerians that are gathered there who the thing has gotten on their nerves were like, "Okay, you want us to give you a bunch of... Okocha's t-shirt? We have it,
So they're talking about a Nigerian
Yeah, they started mentioning
footballer.
Nigerian footballers who their own jerseys are good too.
So you're going to give us a Brazilian footballer jersey. We don't think that's going to impress too many Nigerians, right?
No.
Yeah. That's funny. So anyway, he says, "I've heard of you. You can do all these things. I'm going to give you a purple clothes. You'll have a chain of gold." Well, that's a little better than a purple outfit. "And third ruler of the kingdom." Well, that's pretty impressive. Daniel, however, is not impressed. Verse 17, he says, "Let your gifts be for yourself. You keep them, king.
Right.
And give your rewards to another. But I will read the writing to the king and make known to him the interpretation." So he's like, "I don't need your gifts, but if you want to know what's said, I'll tell you."
I'll tell you.
So he does. He says, "O king, the Most High God gave Nebuchadnezzar, your father," and I know they keep calling him your father, but he wasn't literally his father, but he was his ancestor.
Okay.
Probably grandfather.
Yeah.
The Most High God gave Nebuchadnezzar, your father, a kingdom and majesty, glory and honor. And because of the majesty that he gave him, all peoples, nations, and languages trembled and feared before him. So God made him, the big guy, the big king of the biggest kingdom and most powerful kingdom in that part of the world. Whomever he wished, he executed. Well, we know about that, right? Whomever he wished, he kept alive. Whomever he wished, he set up. Whomever he wished, he put down. But, verse 20, when his heart was lifted up, and the Bible talks about how, not the Bible, but we have a saying, absolute power corrupts absolutely, and he had absolute power, and that's what Daniel's describing. He killed who he wanted. He let people live if he wanted. He did whatever he wanted, absolute power. But when his heart was lifted up, which will happen usually when you get absolute power, his spirit was hardened in pride. So Daniel is describing the problem. He's proud. He was deposed from his kingly throne, and they took his glory from him. He was driven from the sons of men, so his own people drove him out. His heart was made like the beasts, and his dwelling was with the wild donkeys, living with the animals. They fed him with grass like oxen. His body was wet with the dew of heaven. until he knew that the Most High God rules in the kingdom of men and appoints over it whomever he chooses. Well, Daniel is giving Belshazzar a history lesson. The history of the chapter we just covered, chapter 4 here.
Yeah, you mean that, being that he was born in that kingdom, he didn't read grandfather's, biography?
Well, actually, he did know it. But Daniel is reminding him. Let's look at the very next verse, 22. He says, but you, his son, his descendant, Belshazzar, have not humbled your heart, although you knew all this. So Daniel's saying, you knew this,
all this,
but you didn't humble yourself.
You decided to go your own way.
You're just as proud as he was. And he says, and you have lifted yourself up against the Lord of heaven.
Whoa.
Wow.
Wow. Well, humility is, the key to every thing in
If you
life.
want to get along with God,
you
better walk
humble
humbly.
yourself. Yeah.
What does the Lord require of you but to do justly and to love mercy and to walk?
Thanks for watching our study of the greatest book ever written, the Bible. In addition to these Bible studies with Ben and me, I also share what I call video devos, which are short teachings I give on various Bible topics. These teachings are normally, but not always, posted on Mondays. Be sure and click the subscribe button and then click that bell icon and choose Show All Notifications. That way you'll be notified every time we post a new video. And if you're struggling with diabetes, check out my other channel, which is called Beat Diabetes. God bless you, and see you again soon.